I'm so happy to be back again, and it's really neat having Canada spotlighted.
Paula Tozer. She's a creative coach, singer, songwriter, actor.
When someone says, "How are you?" what is your standard response? Not too bad.
Words fall short when action is required. Ouch. Excellent.
Well, Canada's good morning, sort of. Good afternoon for those, and from India, 8 o'clock at night. I'm so happy to be back again, and it's really neat having Canada spotlighted. With that, that's the greetings from your host. I am your host, Sandra 𝐂𝐿𝐾 from Canada, and so thrilled to be here. And the next thing we have is an introduction to our guest. And so if we could have our prime mover, Chaturani, if you could introduce our guest speaker, just a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Sandra. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. Today our speaker is lovely lady, Claudia Paula Tozer. She is a creative coach and singer, songwriter, actor, blogger, and competitive speaker too. She lives outside of Frederickson in Canada with her lovely husband, Mark. And not only husband, have rescued dogs and cats. Paula is author of saying, "Your own life, learning to live life you are done," an elegant life handbook and enriching child. She holds a diploma in applied psychology and counseling from the 𝐾𝐿 College of Professional Counseling in 2018. The competitive speaker and leader Toastmaster, Paula had the honor of representing her division in the District 45 International Speech and Humorous Speech Contest. She has notched and mentored Toastmasters in Canada and the US. In addition to multiple, Paula was the recipient of the inaugural Darling John Outstanding Mentor Award 2020-21 for exhibiting her heart and soul what mentoring in Toastmasters is all about. Currently, Paula is supporting an actress in made for television series, The Town Clown, directed by award-winning screenwriter and director Brenda Melly. Now, I would like to invite our today's speaker, Mrs. Lee Tozer. The screen is yours.
How are you? My fellow share remembers, when someone says, "How are you?" what is your standard response? Well, my go-to response used to be, "Not too bad." Not too bad. Why would I describe my state of being as not too bad? Why am I not doing better than bad? And here's a few that I've heard others say. "I'm living the dream," or "I'm getting by." Another one I heard a lot is, "I'm surviving." Well, you were meant for so much more than survival. You were meant for a good life, not one with some degree of badness. We were meant for the very, very best life that we can possibly imagine. See, to me, these responses indicate an internal struggle, a less than optimum existence, a response not fitting for a person with their whole life before them. And think about it. That's everyone. Everyone here today, everyone who has had the privilege of waking up today on this side of the grass has their whole life before them, right? So why would we describe our precious life in terms of what we've survived? As in, I'm a survivor. Well, consider this. Survival is a valuable achievement. You wouldn't be here without it, right? Now, it may be an epic story that deserves honor as one of the chapters of your life, but it's certainly not the end of your story. Life is fun, right? Merriam-Webster defines thrive in this way: to progress toward or realize a goal despite of or because of circumstances. So it's not a matter of what we've survived, but what we've gained and how we've thrived in spite of it. In other words, in any situation, we have the potential to thrive. Now, you may say that's easier said than done, and that's true. Words do fall short when action is required. It takes courage and effort, and many times a mind shift away from the survivors to the thrivers mindset. So how do thrivers think? How do they speak? And how do they act? To understand how this shift comes about, I'll introduce you to some original and important concepts. Number one is your first nature. Number two, your constant traveler. And number three, contemplative writing. And number four, the wellspring of inspiration. You know, we often hear about how when we master something like the guitar or a martial art or any difficult skill, that it becomes second nature. But what about first nature? What are the natural attributes, the basic elements that we have as human beings that allow us to become masterful at anything? I describe our first nature as the natural attributes with which we were born, those that we came to life to express. See, when we were born, we had everything we needed to thrive, and we still do. Now, in order to explore these attributes, we must engage the part of us that I call your constant traveler. This is the most honorable, compassionate, and elegant part of you that you can possibly imagine right now. This is the part of you that can express your first nature attributes with ease. So in this talk, I'd like to introduce you to 4 of these natural attributes in a way that you may not have considered them before. We'll take a look at creativity, curiosity, passion, and potential. Psychologist Edward de Bono said, "There is no doubt that creativity is the most important human resource of all. Without creativity, there would be no progress, and we would be forever repeating the same patterns." I'll spend a bit more time on this first concept than the others, because I believe that the rest are the result of expressing our creativity. You, my friend, are a marvelously creative human being. You are worthy of this wonder simply by being born. Nobody can take this away, but it's been systematically trained out of you and devalued by our society. Allow me to explain. Please write these numbers down. 98, 33, 12, and 2. Now, does that sequence mean anything to you? As it turns out, it represents what may be the saddest story ever told. In 1968, Dr. George Land was contracted to do a study for NASA and test the creativity, that which he described as the creative genius, of their scientists and astronauts. After this was completed, he took the test to 1,600 3 to 5-year-old children, and the results were absolutely astounding. 98% tested in the creative genius category. Intrigued, he came back 5 years later, and he tested them again as 8 and 10-year-olds. At that point, only 33% tested in this genius category. So he came back 5 years later and tested them again as 18 and 20-year-olds. By that time, only 12% tested in this category. It's been said that as adults, only 2% of us have retained our creative genius. From 98% to 2%. Happened. What we have concluded, wrote Land, is that non-creative behavior is learned. Non-creative behavior is learned. Only 2% of us have survived the creative genius genocide. I'm on a delightful mission to show you the very best of yourself. So let's begin by going back in time. Now, in the world in which I grew up, real work was something like a nurse or a teacher, a business person, engineer, a carpenter, even a laborer. But creating art was considered play, and we were advised to give up those childish pursuits when we became an adult. At one point, I did agree with this idea, but not anymore. See, I believe that folks like mechanics and builders and scientists are some of the most creative people on the planet because they are the innovators, the solution finders, the way showers, the brainstormers, and the inventors. Have you ever seen a mechanic make something at the spur of the moment that gets your vehicle out of a jam? Now think about how much creativity it must have had to create the vision for the mRNA vaccine and hold that in your mind for over 20 years against almost impossible odds and work towards that distant goal each day for the benefit of all humankind. What vision that scientist had. And consider the educator and leader who dreams of creating a nonprofit organization where people can connect and learn effective communication and comprehension skills in English for free, and inspires others to join his cause with a 10-year goal of reaching and educating 1 million learners. Pretty impressive, right? I think we know someone like that. You see, it's not just the writers, the sculptors, the actors, and dancers who are the creatives. You are an artist. And the true calling of your life is to create something colored beautiful with it. Now, it took me over 50 years to state that I am an artist. Why so long? Because in my part of the world, art was something that you did when you were not working. In my society, it was known as a pastime, a way to pass time. But it wasn't something that a serious person did for a living. So to fit in, I had to agree with my society. And for many years, I devalued my artistry to the point that I actively chose against it. But in 2010, that changed. I began valuing my first nature attributes once again. See, by that time, I had experienced the deaths of 15 friends and family members, including my mom and dad, in a little over 10 years. And it brought my own mortality into a sharp focus. And I asked myself, what am I doing with my life? Am I happy? Am I fulfilled? Am I living the life that I imagined for myself when I was a kid? The answer was, not really. It was time for me to reassess my priorities. And one of the most important things that I did for myself was to declare, I am an artist to the world. See, I truly believe that you have an inner artist as well. Okay, you say, I'm an artist. So what? Well, if you don't believe in the power of your own creative genius, you won't be able to dream of a better future. You won't be able to imagine anything new. Without creativity, you won't be able to imagine the possibilities in my words and how they could apply to your own life. You see, it's through your artistry that you will create the dream that forms that vision that leads you to a life designed to thrive. Now, it will take consistent effort to change your habit of denying your artistry, especially at first. But think about it this way. We tend to imagine what we can't do, but not what we can do. It will take a shift in mindset, our language around our personal artistic expression, and engaging in some serious play. What I mean by that is learning to play all over again as an adult. So I summarize my creativity by this simple statement. There's more where that came from. I learned this just a decade ago when I began to write song after song that amazed and delighted me. I then progressed into writing books and writing and delivering keynote speeches. This is serious play, my friends, and it's so much fun. Now, curiosity is a primary first nature attribute. It's the spirit of the adventurer or the explorer. Albert Einstein said, the important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reasons for existing. I question everything, especially the source of the questions, and that's me. Curiosity invokes what I believe to be the most powerful force in the cosmos, our willingness power. Now, this is not willpower where you have to bully yourself through an activity, a project, a fitness goal, or life in general. It's summarized by the question, I wonder what would happen if I tried this? And then saying, okay, I'll do it. I'll travel there. I'll learn that. I'll take a chance and step out onto the field. I'll take that role. Because here's a secret that thrivers know for sure. Most of us may live in the shallows, but there's a part of us that's designed for the deep. And the deep is where thrivers are not afraid to go and live. How? Through the power of our vision. We used our creativity to envision a marvelous deep diving ship like Jules Verne did to journey 20,000 leagues under the sea. And we are delighted to be its captain because nobody else can captain our ship. Nobody is going to create a dream world for you. It's up to you. And if you don't like your creations, then it's up to you to change them. So to create that new world, a world you see before you, you must be willing to envision a new one. And this means a new way of thinking, of speaking, and of acting that isn't like the one you're experiencing now. You must see it applied to you, not what it looks like in the life of someone you admire. You must imagine yourself thinking, speaking, and acting like that. You got to see it to be it. But first, you must believe that it's possible for you. See, curiosity is what allows you to be the author of your own heroic, epic action adventure story to become passion in action. Now, I love this quote by Nelson Mandela. There is no passion to be found in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. Capable of living. Have you ever watched a child play? They are totally focused on what they're doing. It's what I call passion in action. And passion is a powerful state because it is what allows you to engage your willingness power. It drives your power moves. Consider what happens if you're apathetic, unwilling to do something. Even if you're forced to do it, no one can make you willing. Force cannot force willingness. But once you do agree, once you engage your passion and begin and move into that stream, immerse yourself in the creative genius flow that is your birthright as a human being, then you become part of that vast mover and shaker cosmology, the space in which dreams are transformed into real life. Willingness allows you to access the vast wellspring of inspiration. This is how I describe the creative force of the universe. Oh, I have an idea. Well, if you're like me and value your inspiration as gifts, then you have to write it down so you don't forget it. As part of my healing from losing those friends and family I mentioned, as a method of exploring my thoughts and feelings around my values, beliefs, and assumptions about life, I've created a process that I call contemplative writing. Now, it differs from journaling in that you engage the part of you that I described as your constant traveler, the wisest part of yourself that you can possibly imagine, and you explore your thoughts from that perspective. So this is sacred space where no self-bashing or complaining is allowed. And using this process, I've learned to aim high and dig deep, and the process has been life-changing. I've learned things that I never knew about myself and shifted my perspective on so many things that I feel like I'm a different person. A wiser, more confident, kinder, gentler, and more passionate person. I enjoy writing my thoughts on paper. I find there's something about putting a pen to paper, that delightful anticipation of what will inspire me. That keeps me coming back every day. And I have notebooks filled with thoughts that have been transformed into blogs and personal development books like An Elegant Mind's Handbook and novels like Enchanting Treve. The difference between the one who thrives and the one who simply survives is that thrivers are willing to take those deep dives and to sift through the dung sometimes and to find our reasons to be inspired. You see, as artists and thrivers, we create our own motivation. We don't have time to wait for someone or something to motivate us. We're too busy innovating and exploring, bringing our creativity and curiosity and passion, our wicked grin of triumph to every experience. See, thrivers know that we all have an all-access pass to that eternal wellspring of inspiration. That is our birthright. You and I are no different in that regard. Every day and in every way, you and I have access to the source of our inspiration. And that's where you're going to find your solutions, your delight, and your personal potential. Now, one of my favorite authors, William Faulkner, shared, "Always dream and shoot higher than you know you can do. Don't bother to just be better than your contemporaries or your predecessors. Try to be better than yourself." Well, here's a question for you. What's the point of life? Is it to be born, to walk through life avoiding as many challenges as possible and then die? Or is it to stand up and step in and engage your power moves? I think you know the answer. You were meant for so much more than blah. You were meant to be excellent. What? You're not excellent? Every thriver is excellent because excellence isn't perfection. Excellence is unique to you. Because every day you have the ability and the freedom to do your very best, to think your very best thoughts, to deliver your very best presentations to the very best of your ability, and to do your very best work. Pride that says, I made that, and you're honored to share your work. So consider this. Your personal vibe must determine your tribe, or your tribe will determine your vibe. I'll repeat that. Your personal vibe, your energy, your intention must determine the people who surround you, or the people who surround you will determine your energy level. Who do you think trained the creativity out of those 1,600 children that Dr. Land tested? And perhaps there's some aspect of your life that challenges you, and you think, I couldn't do that. Well, if you say so. Or you may be thinking, I'm too old to learn anything new. I know what I need to know. Well, if you say so. Or you might be thinking, I'm too heavy or too sick or too sore to do that. Well, if you say so. But I would invite you to ask yourself this. Why are you not willing to address this aspect of your life? Is it fear of failure? Or fear that you may be proven right? You see, I think it's vital for our very best life to be part of a family, a society, a club, an organization that activates our potential, a tribe that inspires us to aim high and dig deep. Now, it may cause you to do what I call a little bit of precipice dancing. That's dancing as close to the edge as humanly possible for as long as possible. Those risks are in there until you learn the truth about yourself. You can fly. Now, to do this, you must be willing to believe in your own potential. You must engage your willingness power and say, okay, I'll do it. You must be willing to break those barriers that are holding you back from living your best life. And you must be willing to reach out to others of like mind who are really thinking the way that you love to think and talking about the things that are important to you and are doing the things that you want to do. As someone who coaches others, I think it's vital to be honest with myself. Yeah, sometimes I'm afraid, but I'm not afraid of proving myself wrong. Never, ever let your fear deprive you of your potential. What's possible for you is always on the other side of it. So I invite you to ask yourself this. What if that's just your fear talking? What if your constant traveler, the most honorable, compassionate part of you that you can possibly imagine, the voice of your first nature and your inspiration, is whispering in your ear? You were meant to soar with the eagles, to plunge to the bottom of the ocean, and to dance as close to the edge as humanly possible, to feel totally and truly alive, to live that life designed to thrive. And I invite you to think again, my friends. Think again.
Wow. Thank you, Paula. That was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I am really excited now to hear from Andrea Anderson. Let me welcome Andrea Anderson with the review.
And thank you so much for this opportunity, Coach Rambabu, to review. My goodness, I took like 6 pages of notes. Our speaker began with, how are you? And she said, well, the standard response is, oh, not too bad. Living the dream. I'm surviving. And she wanted us to dig just a little bit deeper. And she said, you know what? We are meant for the what kind of life? The good life. Aristotle spoke of the good life, the flourishing life. He called it eudaimonia, the good life, the flourishing life. And I like the phrase that she used, this side of the grass. Grass. Again, she was so positive. She didn't want to say the side of the grave, so she said this side of the grass. And she talked about survival is valuable what? Survival is valuable achievement. And she gave us the definition of what thriving is. That simply means progress. How do you progress? You progress forward. And she said, you know what? You're not just a survivor. We're not here just to survive. We're here to thrive. And we have what? We have the potential to thrive. Listen to this. Words fall short when action is required. Ouch. Excellent. That just got stung because it's so true. Words fall short when action is required. And she says, well, how do you thrive? Number one, you speak, you act. In other words, you keep on moving. And then she talked about the first nature, rather, and that is the way we were born, our natural attributes. I believe one of her natural attributes is to encourage us. And she said, natural attributes, what do? They burn within us. And when they burn within us, what else do we have? We have a constant traveler. And she talked about creativity. If you don't have creativity, there's no progress. And always ask yourself, I wonder what will happen if I try this. And she said, a lot of us live our lives in the shallow end. Well, you know what? There's a time for us, a deep place for us to dive in. So we've got to stay in the deep. And no one can be a captain of our ship. No one can navigate our ship but us. But how do we do that? We have to have vision. We have to envision a new way of acting, speaking, and thinking. And I love this phrase. You must see it to be it. And she said, talked about curiosity, and passion drives our power moves. Again, we must have passion. Yes. And she just really encouraged us. I really appreciate that. And she talked about the difference between contemplative writing. It's not the same as journaling, which I had never heard of that before. And she says, when you do contemplative writing, don't self-bash. You aim high to dig deep. Stand up, step in, and then when you do that, you engage the power moves. Why? Because we're meant to be excellent, and excellence is unique to the individual. So aim high and dig deep. And Ms. Tozer, we really appreciate that. And never let fear deprive you of potential, or somebody talking over you so you can't finish, deprive you of saying we're so glad that you're a sharer in, and we want you to come back, come back, come back. So thank you. We salute you this morning.
Oh, that was awesome, Andrea. You squeezed an awful lot in. I really appreciated it. Andrea, you always bring lots of energy. I hope you enjoyed it as well, Paula. We are coming to the end of our hour, and I'm really proud of everyone that we can make it into the 1 hour because it makes it crisp, keeps us sharp. Thank you so much, Paula. Now, Paula, you get a last closing statement, which is kind of one sentence that you really want us.
All right, let's say this then. One of the greatest gifts a coach can give a client, a mentor can give a mentee, a teacher can give a student, a parent can give their child, is to put them in touch with their own creativity. But to do this, you must be connected to your own in an intimate manner. To light that fire, your flame must be red hot. So there's a challenge for you.
Wow. Let's unmute ourselves and give Paula a huge round of applause. It's so much nicer when we can hear the applause. I want to thank everyone on the panel. I want to thank everyone for understanding that we're really doing this challenge to keep the meetings crisp. That means that we honor the times, and everyone has just been absolutely amazing. I'm so proud of Share Every. Wonderful speech, Paula. You got the greatest conversations going, and you'd see them all in the chat. Everybody wanted to hear more. So you'll be back.